From Deloitte Tax, welcome to the Tax News and Views podcast. In this series, we talk to specialists from Deloitte about the latest business issues. I'm Carrie Falkenhayn, your host for Tax News and Views, and today we are recording a special conversation with Carin Giuliante. Carin recently began serving as the U.S. CEO for Deloitte Tax, and Carin and I will be discussing the topic of purpose as a growing area of focus in the marketplace and in the tax profession. It's something that's important to me, and I know it will resonate with our listeners as well. Carin's going to share some perspectives on why Deloitte and our tax practice have made this a key strategic commitment. So Carin, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us today.
Thanks, Carrie. Really happy to be with you all today.
And to get us started, how are we defining purpose at Deloitte?
Thanks, Carrie. It's a great question. When you think about it, purpose really has always been embedded across what we do at Deloitte, but perhaps not always as intentionally as it is today. And so if you think all the way back to the inception of the accounting profession, Deloitte and firms like it were originally founded with the mission of helping to instill trust in the capital markets. But over time, that focus has expanded and evolved to include more things we traditionally associate with purpose today. At Deloitte, we think about our purpose focus areas through the lens of our core commitments, and our purpose is to make an impact that matters by creating trust through four things: our focus on societal impact, our focus on sustainability, equity, and trust. And being a purpose-led organization means that we want there to be ethics and integrity in all we do. From a social impact perspective, we are trying to drive impact in our communities through our people, our investments, and our client work to enact positive change in those communities in which we live and work. On sustainability, we are embedding sustainable practices throughout our organization, practices that will reduce our carbon footprint over time, and we're also finding more equitable ways for all of us to approach climate solutions, both internally and through the work we do with our clients. Equity is about using our capabilities to remove those systemic barriers that exist and create a culture and a system that empowers all of our professionals to have fair access to opportunities. And then finally, when we think about trust, we work to embed trustworthy technology decision-making into the technology we develop and operate, again, both for our own use and for the use of our clients. So when you think about it through that lens, hopefully you'll see it's not just about the clients we serve or sustainability. Purpose is really so much more than that.
So Carin, why is the topic of purpose so important in today's world and in the business landscape?
Yeah, so it's a great question, Carrie. Why is purpose important? Purpose is important because it matters. Making a positive impact on our clients, our people, and our communities matters. Ethics and integrity in all we do, it matters. Diversity, equity, and inclusion matters. Things like representation, physical, mental health, well-being, they all matter. And finding meaning in what we do every day really matters. And so because people want to find meaning in what they do, businesses like ours are being called upon to use their capabilities to serve the public good and perhaps lean in on engaging in societal challenges. So for us here at Deloitte, to meet that challenge, we stood up and brought together our purpose and DEI offices to really combine and amplify our impact and achieve that purpose mission I just talked about. In tax, we now have a chief purpose and DEI officer who's tasked with driving our strategy around all those things. So why is that? Let me maybe share a couple of interesting statistics on the importance of purpose. In 2020 and 2021, 44% of millennial workers and almost half of Gen Z workers made decisions about their jobs and or their employers based on their personal ethics. That same research also tells us that executives increasingly see corporate purpose as a potential solution to workforce challenges. So as an example, last summer, 37% of CEOs reported that strengthening their company's stated purpose would have the greatest impact on combating the Great Resignation. Because when competing for top talent, when you think about it, purpose is really one way for an employer to differentiate themselves.
So clearly, this idea around purpose is important in the business world, but what are some examples of how purpose comes into play in the tax profession? And what are some takeaways that our listeners and others working in the profession could have?
So I'm not sure most people would normally associate the tax profession with purpose. But if you think about it, at the core of the profession is that role that tax accountants and tax departments play in enabling the free markets. Think, for example, about the importance of the tax compliance system, which essentially provides funding for governments and the programs they sponsor and run. So broadly speaking, our work is really the foundation for transparency, honesty, and credibility in any free market system. But we really see that tilt towards purpose in other parts of our business as well. And we are seeing more growth in those purpose-driven areas of tax. For example, a trend we're seeing is more professionals wanting to do work that supports things like sustainability and equity. And tax professionals and tax departments can really play a key role in supporting their organizations with sustainability and climate change measures, including tax work around credits impacting sustainability. So think carbon sequestration, think alternative energy, or perhaps around equity, things like the new market tax credit. Another good example is the work we can do for tax exempt and other purpose-driven organizations. Things like the work our tax exempt team does for nonprofits, family foundations, philanthropies, higher education, hospitals, health systems. All of this work, including the work our social impact committee does, and the tax pro bono work we do for these types of organizations, really has a purpose impact. Last example I'll give is perhaps the work we do around disaster relief efforts. And the work we do there helps our clients make sure their capital is deployed properly, while hopefully also ultimately helping those in most need of assistance after those disasters and catastrophic events. So I really do think purpose is embedded all across our business. We just really need to think about where to find it.
And there's even tried and true programs like the volunteer income tax assistant programs that I know many of our tax professionals volunteer. Here in Chicago, we have Ladder Up as the organization that our professionals take part in. So those are some great examples. Maybe switching to recruiting, how can tax leaders really lean into purpose from a recruiting perspective?
Yeah, Carrie, I think here it's a bit about storytelling. I think we all need to be able to tell a better story about the impact accountants and tax professionals play in the market and those opportunities that are available when we're pursuing work in accounting and tax. As I mentioned earlier, the research supports the importance of having purpose in the recruiting narrative. Our recent Deloitte Human Capital Trends report data shows that millennials and Gen Zers really do make choices about the type of work they do and where they want to work based on their personal ethics and their personal values. So tapping into that sense of purpose in the recruitment conversation and the retention conversation really is key. One of the things I often say here is that we need to think differently here. We need to take the opportunity to put ourselves in the shoes of the people that we're hiring and really think about what motivates them and what are their needs and what are their preferences. So I would really encourage leaders at all levels to spend time thinking about what's important to their teams and taking the time to evaluate that and really understand that it is important to both recruiting and retention.
Carin, in addition to thinking about recruiting, Deloitte has also made investments into the profession. We call them MADE, and that's another great example of purpose and action. So why is that so important for Deloitte and for our profession?
Yeah, thanks, Carrie. I love talking about things like MADE. And for those who don't know, MADE stands for Making Accounting Diverse and Equitable. And we launched this commitment back in 2021 with a goal of fueling greater racial and ethnic diversity in accounting and tax. Through MADE, Deloitte is committed to generating more advisory, auditing, and tax career opportunities and leadership pathways for the next generation of certified public accountants. It's a vision that works to help students see and realize their future in business through the prism and possibilities of accounting. In just 2 years, our $75 million Deloitte MADE commitment enabled funding for more than 300 college scholarships and $5 million in Deloitte Foundation grant support for historically Black colleges and universities, Hispanic serving institutions. MAID provides on-campus programming to more than 30,000 high school and college students and has engaged more than 200 accounting and finance professionals through our interactive programs such as the Climb Fellowship Program, Board Readiness Program, and our Stride CPA Readiness Programs. This commitment is just one example, as noted, of how we've worked to fill our commitment to create equity and trust. And as I said, both of those are key elements of purpose as we define it. Just want to share a story. In June, I was lucky enough to attend our Deloitte Day at the annual NABA conference hosted by the National Association of Black Accountants, where more than 600 Deloitte professionals were in attendance, along with more than 400 interns sponsored by the MAID program. And I was so honored to be asked to participate. And I can tell you that the energy and excitement at the conference was just amazing. And when you get a chance to participate in something like that, you really are able to see firsthand the difference some of these investments are making.
Absolutely. So, Carin, share your thoughts on how others in our profession can become more involved in driving purpose-driven outcomes that positively benefit the profession.
Sure. I would say first, be proactive. Look for ways to get involved. At Deloitte, we have lots of opportunities to get involved, both on the national and local level. Impact Day, that first Friday in June, where all of Deloitte is encouraged to go out in the community together to make an impact, is a great example. But there are so many more. I would encourage everyone to find that organization that matters to you personally and get involved. Carrie, you noted earlier, volunteer income tax assistance programs. That's a great example. Another example could be getting involved with AICBA work, collaborating across professional associations, accounting firms, universities. All of those organizations can be impactful in driving change we want to see and really help make a lasting positive impact. The bottom line really is what you said before. You don't need to be limited to what your employer or your organization might be sponsoring. Just find what matters to you. There are endless examples. And I think every one of our small actions will accumulate and collectively help us make an enormous difference.
Yeah, I have to mention two others that are close to my heart. One would be mentoring programs. So I'm involved with the local Big Brothers Big Sisters chapter, and we have a mentoring program at our office in Chicago. There's also corporate work study programs affiliated with different high schools. One that we have in Chicago and across the country are Cristo Ray programs, and great opportunities for our people to get involved and make a difference. So really appreciate you giving me the chance to give those shout outs. And Carin, thank you so much for sharing your perspectives here. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Carrie. I really do appreciate the opportunity to talk about purpose because I said in my comments, purpose is important, purpose matters, and all of us, if we work together, can make a huge impact.
Well, I am certainly proud to be part of an organization and a profession that's focused on making an impact that matters. And I especially appreciate the insights into how our listeners can get involved. If our listeners would like more information on how we view purpose at Deloitte, you can go on Deloitte.com and search on the word purpose for more information. Thank you to our listeners for joining us today. I hope you continue to check out this podcast series. And in the meantime, I hope everyone continues to be well. Thank you, everyone.